there's always something to take from these conversations, but we do want to lead all of these conversations with kindness, with an open heart, with an open mind, and certainly want to celebrate things that are happening in amazing ways in the game. And wherever that might be for you today, I hope there's something you take, and I hope there's something that really inspires you to really make this Friday fantastic. And just like we've been doing this for a couple of years now, I am not in any way nervous that there will not be 1,000,001 takeaways from this conversation. But before we get started, I do have to do the shout outs. It's absolutely always necessary because there are amazing people making today happen every single time. So let's first just give a shout out to our sponsor, Kickoff Coffee. Kickoff Coffee. Ooh, little too much maybe coffee this morning, and Candice is starting real fast. But Kickoff Coffee, if you haven't tried it, fantastic. It really, really is, one, quality, and two, always goes to magnificent resources and has such a great story. So if you have not yet, please check out the Kickoff Coffee, and always a very, very big thank you to them to helping today be possible. The WIS Network. Rachel, Pip, please unmute, say hello. There's nothing I can say enough to justify the amazing work you both do, but if you can say hi to the audience, I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Candice. As always, we love being able to be the host behind this. Candice, you are the show, you are the star that really makes this happen and keeps this running as smoothly as always. But Rachel LaSalle here with Women in Soccer, one of the co-founders and managing director. It's an honor and a privilege to have you all here. And as always, we, Candice emphasizes this, but we really encourage you to remember your lens, be open, call people in, keep our inclusion tips in mind, which we'll make sure we send those in a chat for anyone that needs a refresher. But we really wouldn't be here without Fearless and Capable in Candice's mentorship company, Candice herself. And please, Pip, I'll let you jump in as well.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I'm Pip Penman. I'm the head of content at WIS. I use she, her pronouns. And as Rach said, we're so excited and honored always to have everyone who joins these calls. Coffee in Progress is just about, making change for all in the game. So it's really it's humbling and it's inspiring, honestly, to see every single person who takes an hour out of their day to join us to talk about and take action and how we can make this game more equitable for all and, our social sphere. So it really means so much. And I'm excited to just kick this off with amazing experts and talk about a super special initiative we have for you all. So yeah, let's go. Happy Friday, everyone.
Absolutely. And if we remember, first off, every June we have a Coffee in Progress. At least we have for the last couple of years. And rightfully so. It's Pride Month, y'all. Let's give a little, up, a little clap, a little whatever dance. Fun fact, I chose between dance and soccer. I'm still happy with my choice. But fun fact for your Friday, Candice was a dance captain. But going into the conversation, yes, Jordyn. Oh my God, so much linkage. I appreciate it. But it is Pride Month. And, really, if we go to the heart of what Pride Month, started at and means, it's disruption. It's that call to say what can no longer keep being, and we need to disrupt the systematic ways that we're doing things and celebrate things. And there's so much to be celebrated, but certainly there's a lot of work to continue to be done. And we're going to talk about ways that work's going to continue to be done, specifically through one program that I'm very excited. I'm keeping it at the cusp. I almost want to keep throwing it out there, and it's going to go to Kaig here next, and we're going to give you all the deets. But just a reminder that as this month of June goes on, there are so many ways to celebrate Pride. Pride never ends on June 30th. It should continue year round. So make sure that you're finding those efforts in your own communities, in your own social networks, and everything that you interact with. It is literally something that means the world to everyone. It means the world to everyone because, again, you bleed it. You really do. It's fantastic. All right, let's get to the people you're all here to see. I am going to start with the one and only Kaig Lightner. There has been so much in his life the last 12 months, but even further, I know, but the last 12 months have been jam-packed with amazing things on personal and professional levels. Kaig is at the heart, the executive director and the founder of PCFC, Portland Community Football. And, I'm going to give a shout out, was on the podcast Unbreakable and Fearless. It's a little plug for myself, but it was a fantastic conversation that actually links some things we're going to talk about today. And I kind of felt a little special to be on like the opening side of some of these things that are coming out. But Kaig, can you say hello and maybe just a little plug, not too much, just a little tidbit, little tease of where we're going today?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Nice to see all the folks that have jumped in. Lots of people from Portland, too. Shout out. Hey, Portland folks. And happy Pride. Also, hey to all my LGBTQ family that's out there. I always love to just say a special hey to all my family members. I am really excited to be here to talk today about a special movement that PCFC is launching called Liberate Sports. And the very quick elevator pitch of Liberate Sports that I'll say now and I'll get into more later today. It's really about healing hidden barriers and the hidden barriers that show up in race, gender, and economics within sport. We're focused on soccer. We're a football club, but this is really about sport and the experiences that athletes across the board have in barriers. And we're really launching this movement to bring awareness, bring education, and elevate the untold stories of how these barriers impact participation and ultimately liberation in the sport. So we'll get into way more later on. That's a little teaser.
It was a great teaser. And the wonderful people that are working with Kaig on this movement, I've been very appreciative of the fact they're joining us today. That is, taking the time out to help with the support, the understanding, the story of what's occurring is really, truly amazing. I'm going to start with Reema. Reema is an author, speaker, coach, and consultant. Her books include the critically acclaimed memoir, I Am Yours. Reema's work has appeared in Vogue, Miss Magazine, The Guardian, Salon, and other leading outlets. Reema has one of the most soothing, wonderfully beautiful voices, coming from someone who cannot sing a lullaby to my child to save my life. I want you to just, if you can, just, record a few for me so I can give them to my children to help them sleep at night. But Reema, if you don't mind, can you say hello to our audience and anything you want to just kind of tease about the Liberate, go for it. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Candice. And actually, I was a nanny for years before breaking into being a professional author, because you have to do your hustle, and my hustle was taking care of little babies, and I've sent to more than 100, so I would be honored to send you little
I've got chills because I'm like, you are like Miss Mary Poppins in this call. I love it.
Mary Poppins in heels, because this was back in New York, and I was like an actress and a mom.
New York version of Miss Mary Poppins. We have found her. I am so excited about this. All right, on to you and all the magnificent things you did, as well as being a nanny. Go for it.
Thank you. And I'm so honored to be here with everyone today and to be speaking with all of you. And thank you for tuning in. And I'm especially privileged and grateful to be working with Kaig and Jordyn on this incredible movement called Liberate Sports. And like Candice said, I'm an author, but I also work with different nonprofits and organizations and individuals to identify and elevate their story. And that's what I do with Kaig and PCFC. And the amazing thing is, yes, Liberate Sports is a movement that is sparking right now. We're introducing it here. However, PCFC has been around for 10 years. We've just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. But the story started way before then, because it started with Kaig. And we're talking about movements and how social movements and rebellions and revolutions happen. And it always happens with one single person. And it began with Kaig when he was a tiny little child. And he started to notice that there was some tension between the way the world had assigned his gender and saw him, and between the way he authentically felt in his body. And I call that a moment of interruption. Whenever I work with my clients, we talk about the hero's journey. And when did your hero's journey actually start? And it always starts with that moment of interruption, when you recognize that there is something off. There's a bit of a tension between the way the world is treating you and the way you feel inside and what you have to say. And the calling begins then. And it began with Kaig saying, raising his little hand and saying, like, there's something going on. I want to pay attention to this. And then he started bringing other people into paying attention on his behalf as well. And whether that happens in our bodies through gender, whether it happens through sexuality, whether it happens through racial tension, or, feeling sexism and misogyny, there's always the people who begin movements. It begins with that moment of insight and saying, there is something happening here. I need to pay attention. And then slowly you need to pay attention as well. And that's when it actually happened.
And that's Pride Month, right? Is everyone finding that moment to pay attention, whether it's in themselves, whether it's their community, the people they work with, the people they live with. I love it. So excited for what this conversation is going to be. And we're going to keep it rolling on the introductions. Jordyn, and Jordyn has such a great connection to the WIS network. I was trying to look, I don't think Courtney's joined us today, but founder Courtney Levinson is a former alum of where Jordyn played soccer at the University of Cal Berkeley. Am I saying Cal Berkeley, right? I'm on the right one. Awesome. Wonderful. Yeah. Currently, she is the communication strategist at POV Agency, but certainly has a thick soccer background, especially. Oh, Courtney is here. There she is. Oh, sorry. I didn't see you come in. Courtney, do you want to say hi to Jordyn real quick? Oh, she figures out her audio. Oh, I see her mouth moving.
Go Bears. I read the lips. That's all I needed.
Yes, that's all you needed. Jordyn, go ahead and give us a little hello to the people listening.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the great intro, Candice. And of course, hello to a fellow Bear, Courtney. We have such a strong Cal alumni network, so it's really just such a cool full circle moment to be a part of this panel today. And hello to the women in soccer community. I'm here and I'm privileged to be a part of Kaig's team as he embarks on the Liberate Sports, pledge and campaign. Kaig and I'm here in representing POV Agency, which is the PR arm that is helping Kaig during this time as he, draws a lot more media and national attention to him and the work that PCFC is doing, and rightfully so in due time, right? So I'm super honored to be a part of the team, and just we'll be here to help spread the word and share how you can get involved with the pledge beyond, just signing, which is like, step one. We hope that's something everyone can achieve. But yeah, just really great to be here and, near and dear to the sport of soccer, having played my whole life, and really honored to be here and a part of Kaig's team.
So excited. And I know the game for you runs so deep, right, as an identity. And I think as women in particular, and men as well, but just everybody, non-binary is looking at the fact that for those that are seeing their identity tied as the participant, the player, I hope you can see where the game of soccer can take you beyond just participation, right? Beyond just the coach. Kaig is a coach. I'm a coach, but there's all these amazing other ways that you can impact the game past the identity of participant. And Jordyn, you're showing that other path. And I think that's always magnificent as well. And want to highlight for those that are trying to figure out where's that passion, where's that cup being filled to make this game better today, tomorrow, and for the future. So excited that all three of you are here, and obviously the WIS women of Courtney, Rachel, and Pip going to be supporting this conversation. So let's get started. And I want to remind the audience, as you guys are listening, you may certainly ask questions. We have taken over a virtual coffee shop, all right? There may be some drive-through members on the side, but we are taking off that coffee shop. Imagine the comfy chair that you have occupied and get comfortable in this conversation, but also engage. All right, listen, open mind, open heart, but also be engaged in it. If you have questions that you would rather not unmute for, you can certainly add them into the chat. Rachel and Pip are watching for those. And then secondly, if you want to send something privately, we certainly can do that. And I will be upfront and honest, we're not going to get to all the questions usually. We will make sure we follow up if there are questions we're not able to answer in this conversation, okay? So, Kaig, I am turning it to you first. I know you gave us a little teaser on Liberate Sports. Give us a little bit of that why behind where this really is coming from. I know the link to the Liberate Sports movement is in our chat. So if you haven't, just scroll up a little bit, but make sure we all know where we're going to go after you give us this amazing information. So Kaig, I want to give it to you first.
Sure. Thanks. First of all, do I have ability to share screen if I need to? I may or may not. I'm unsure. I'm going to see where this goes. I like to play it by ear. So Liberate Sports is like Reema said, is really a culmination of the work that's been going on with PCFC for the last 10 years. The work that I've been doing in this organization to bring affordable accessible and equitable soccer to kids that get left out. That's the main goal of PCFC. And they get left out for all kinds of reasons. And really, when we look at it, the three main reasons are race, gender, and economics. These are the three things that are constantly creating barriers around kids participating in the club soccer pay-to-play model. And so really, this is from 10 years of work of on the ground, working with families, working with communities. And it's time for us as an organization to spread the word and to get people behind us and to get people behind this movement, because this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to start a movement to say, we've been here for this long. We've seen really good success. We're creating new opportunities for families and kids, not just through playing soccer, but also through healing those barriers that come up around all of the aspects that can hit folks when they're oppressed, right? We're anti-oppression, anti-racism, all of those values are what are coming in through PCFC. And to be totally frank with you all, I'm tired of sitting over here in my little corner in Portland and keep hearing about the problems with the pay-to-play system. And I'm over here like waving my arms around saying, we're here, we're doing it, we're changing things, we're making a difference. And when I brought on the PR team this year and I brought on a business strategist, they directly asked me, Kaig, do you want to just do fundraising or do you want to start a movement? Movement. Let's do it.
That seemed like did it take you time to answer that, or was it just that? Yeah, I didn't imagine like that for you to Kaig, but I was just curious.
Just like that. And so hence the development of Liberate Sports. To explain a little bit more of what Liberate Sports really looks like, I have a perfect soccer analogy that I'm excited to share with all of you that just came to me over the weekend. Think of Liberate Sports as the attacking team. We're headed down the field. The goal is to liberate, is to find that liberation, that personal liberation, that team liberation, to feel that way within your sport. And we're headed down the field, and the defensive team, we are asking questions of that defensive team. It's the most favorite phrase of any sportscaster, right? Oh, are they asking questions? What kind of questions are they asking of that defense? We are asking questions of the defense, and that defense represents white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism. Those are the things that the defense is upholding, that is creating barriers for us getting to that place of liberation. So Liberate Sports is about asking hard questions, finding the gaps, figuring out how can we be creative in finding new solutions to break through that defensive barrier and get to the liberation goal. That is the best way that I can describe what this work is about. And we need people behind us. We need people to sign the pledge, which is basically a commitment to say, yes, we're in the same value stance. We're aligned with where this is going. We're aligned with how important this is. And then there's a lot of other things that can be a part of being involved as well that we'll get into a little bit later. But signing that pledge is first and foremost, because then we, PCFC, we as a collective can say, look, corporations, look, structural systems, we have people behind us saying it is time to make a difference, to change the way that sports are formatted, structured, elevated, all the things that come up in sports that keep people from participating at their fullest and complete and liberated place. So I'll turn it back to you, Candice.
Kaig, I'm somewhat speechless, and I saw, Courtney put in beautifully articulated. I love the analogy. I see all three of those defensive actions, behaviors, people on every line. I mean, if we're talking our soccer, I see those types of people on the forward, the midfield, and defenders. We break one line, we still are facing it. It's not necessarily all dissolved by just breaking one line. They're continuing to show up. And Kaig, I see you as our number 9. You're putting runs past him. You're exploiting space. You're taking them on directly. I don't want to put a player name equivalent, so it's just going to be Kaig is our 9. I'll be honest, I'm a center back at heart, so I can just be in the back letting people know we're getting up, we're pushing up together. And I'm sure I've got somebody on the call that's the goalkeeper behind me, making sure we're doing everything. We've got all the eyes on what we need to see. And I think that's such a beautiful analogy. And I'm happy to be the center back 6, wherever you want to put me in that role. But you're our 9. You are our striker, our forward, that center one that's causing all the chaos. And thank you. Thank you for that. I really, really appreciate that. And that analogy is something that I'm glad came to your brain this weekend and you shared it with us. I'm very excited.
I have to just say, I was laughing so hard that you said I'm a 9, because that's a position I played for the entirety of me being a soccer player. It was actually not the position I should have been in. I should have been a winger. I'm fast, but not a very good ball handler. So that's where I should have been. But great, I'll play 9 in this scenario.
Well, and I want to turn on that comment a little bit of Kaig, the journey of Kaig, and whether he sees himself as a 9, a striker forward his whole life, or what Kaig has brought to his own personal life, to the people he's known his entire time here. Reema, what is it about Kaig and other movement leaders, and you alluded to this a little bit, that help, and I love the term you use, these movements of interruption? What about Kaig and others? And I think we should acknowledge Kaig is a fantastic role model, and we know there's others out there, and they're finding that moment of interruption. It's on the cusp of it. It's coming, or maybe it's already here. What are some things about Kaig and others like him that really help spark these movements?
Thank you, Candice. Yes, well, with Kaig and others, the things that we definitely see in Kaig, as well as any kind of other movement leader, is the moment Kaig started recognizing that there is something he needs to say, and there's a personal change, as well as then that became a larger cultural change that he needs to be part of. They start to develop these certain muscles. One is a muscle for cultural sensitivity. Another is a muscle for social justice, and then a muscle for profound empathy. And it's like, I always, like, for me, you touched on my story where I've done a lot of work, especially in women's rights and empowerment and gender rights. And for me, I was born in Bangladesh, and I was raised in Thailand and Bangladesh, as well as a little bit of time in Hawaii. But I was so attuned to the sexism and racism around me, but especially the misogyny within my own immediate family of origin, as well as the culture. And as a little child, I used to try to speak out about it, especially in Muslim culture and then Bangladeshi culture. And the more I articulated my voice, that the thing is, the voice is a muscle as well. And the more you use it, the stronger it grows. And that's what Kaig started doing it as well. He started just pointing out differences and using that awareness to develop his sense of self, which now we see the different incarnations of that. And that's what, if we look back in history with any kind of cultural revolution, whether it's like Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. or Mother Teresa, like there's empathy, social justice, and a cultural sensitivity.
Mm-hmm. And from the work you have done and continue to do, and I want to share, just thank you for making mention of your story, your lived experiences, to, what has made your muscles in those 3, extremely strong. What is it about you, Reema, that ties you into this Liberate sports movement, that just kind of brought you, besides the wonderful work of Kaig, that you see in the significance of how women experience sport, how non-binary, minorities, what is your gravitation to say, I can't turn away from this project, I need to be a part of this movement? What is it for you specifically?
Well, during the first conversation we ever had, Kaig and I, we were, kind of brainstorming taglines. And I said to him, what I see within you and PCFC is that you're healing hidden barriers. And that is our overlap. I've always done it with, Asian women rights, BIPOC rights, things like that. And that is our overlap. And I think any one of us who has dedicated their life to cultural movements and social justice, that is our overlap. And that's certainly the work that PCFC is doing, that Kaig is doing, as well as, of course, Liberate Sports. And of course, that's what we're doing with women in sports. We're trying to, whether it's the pay gap or the way that bodies are seen, or certain bodies are allowed, quote unquote, like allowed to be on the field, right. And also questioning who gets to decide these things, and why do they have the authority to decide who has agency and voice on the field and who doesn't.
Thank you. You summarized so many pieces of, the work that I try to do in my space. And I know there's so many of you on this call that are part of communities and movements. And, the support that we can give to each other's movements. And that's really the calling today is, for a lot of people, I know there's work I want to support that you're doing, and the vice versa support of let's look at this movement and be a part of healing some of those boundaries and those things that we really need to look at inside of ourselves. And so, and Reema, for not a last question, this is definitely not the last one I'm asking you. I'm just going to be really honest with you. But for you in particular, you serve a very special role in what's going on right now, right? You're that storyteller. And, you see the beauty of what is occurring. You see the possibilities of what can come of this, and you put it so eloquently. For those that are hopefully going to take the Liberate Sports, sign the pledge, and do these next steps that we're about to get to with Jordyn and Pip, what about in their own spaces? What can people do to help maybe tell their own story, or help their story support things like PCFC coming into all these other different parts of the world and getting resources? What about the storytelling do you see being so important, and the work you do to helping these movements continue to spread and continue to have support? What can we do
for that? I think the most profound spark that people need to understand, and it brings it into a personal space, is that any abuse of power infiltrates all aspects of culture, and it affects all of us. We're not just talking about gender or race or economics when it comes to Liberate Sports. We're talking about that there is a group of people, usually cisgender white men, who are calling all the shots, and they are abusing their power, the power they inherited because all cultures were born from patriarchy. That is the bedrock of the world, and then everything bloomed from there. So anytime they are making decisions that hurts a certain segment of human beings, it's impacting all of us, because there is an inevitable ripple effect, because it means that this group of people who are in power are trying to disempower the rest of us. So Liberate Sports, it doesn't, I don't identify as an athlete. I go to the gym and I run a bit, but it impacts me. It impacts my unborn children. It impacts future generations that I'm part of and the lineage I come from, because it is all about calling truth to power and saying that, okay, what can I do in my community to push that needle forward? So to speak to the second half of your question, well, first, start noticing things in your community where because of economics, race, or gender, the kids in your community are being held back, or they don't have access to certain privileges. And why is privilege in and of itself a privilege, right? And why is play a privilege that is not accessible to all children? Which is the inception of PCFC was around that question. Why is play a privilege that is not accessible to all kids? And how do we break through that and heal that hidden barrier? And now Liberate Sports is taking that, of course, a huge movement forward. So look around your community and start noticing these holes and gaps in your community where certain groups of children are being left behind or ignored or under-resourced, and find out who you need to call. Find out how you can use your privilege, whether it's the privilege of voice, resources, money, whatever it is, to make a difference in that part of your world.
And I think about back to Kaig's piece of questioning, right? We're going to ask questions of the defense. We're going to ask questions of the obstacles that have been created.
Right. There's another. I just wanted to say.
Go for it. Yeah.
On our website, there's a ton of information education, and that is part of the three-pronged mission of the movement. One of them is education. And so the more you educate yourself, you can then be a vocal advocate and ambassador for that kind of education in your community. And those are different kind of facets. We have, of course, signing the petition. And then if you have resources to send to our donation, and then educating yourself, sharing it on social media. There's many different facets where people can get involved.
Yeah. And great segue, because let's get real for everyone. We all know this. Money makes movement. It's just at the heart of things. So Kaig, I want before we go to Jordyn, who's going to tell us all the magnificent ways that we can continue to support and get this word out, Kaig, from a specific component of the finances, like let's not bury truths, let's not hide anything, we're just talking. The money makes the movement. So how and what can people do to help the movement escalate from a financial component?
Yeah, I mean, this movement is starting with us as a nonprofit organization. That, you know, Portland Community Football Club is a nonprofit, and it takes money for us to do our work. And we just in the last 2 years have elevated from a very small grassroots organization to now an organization where I get paid as an executive director. I was not paid as an executive director for the first 8 years of running this organization. I now have paid staff. They have insurance. They have benefits, they have paid time off. We are now running this nonprofit as a business should run, and we are doing it with equity as the lead. And when you do that hard work and that really good work, you need the money to make it run. And we need the money to support the people that are people of color that are working in our organization, LGBTQ people that are working for our organization. And then we obviously need the funding to provide the services that we're providing to families. We're providing them food. We're providing free uniforms for every single kid. Everybody gets cleats if they need them. We do not have anything come up that prevents a kid from playing. That doesn't mean that it doesn't cost us anything. And so this movement is about elevating the good work that PCFC is doing right now with the goal of getting it to go across the nation, right? The PCFC is the catalyst, the spark, as you said, Candice, but then it builds and it gets bigger and it becomes something that goes further on, and that financial backing can start to support other good work that's out there. That's the long-term vision of this movement. But right now, PCFC has got some special sauce, and we need that financial backing to keep that special sauce going and elevate it to others that need it too.
Special sauce. And with that, you got somebody really helping that special sauce get made and sold and put out there, and that is in Jordyn. And Jordyn, I have really been inspired about the path you're taking to make Liberate Sports something that will, in my mind, be a very household governing body statement that we're all looking at anytime there's a sports organization existing, is how is sports inclusive to everyone, right? And liberating it to all and giving that is huge. And so, Jordyn, with everything that's been shared on more of a specifics to the Liberate Sports movement, what else can be done in communities, business, and organizations? What could they be doing to be involved with this?
Yep. Thank you, Candice. And if we're going to just follow Kaig's theme of, soccer field and this offense going against the defense, I think it's important to also understand that there are tiers to participation, right? Like financial investment is, and I'll get to this, the ultimate goal. But we recognize that not everybody maybe in this room is going to be able to put behind, a large chunk of money or whatever it may be. But there are ways to participate that are meaningful. And then, maybe down the line, there is that option, that opportunity, or maybe you can spread the word to someone who can make that investment, right? So let's start from number one, signing the pledge. That is something I think we could all even go on our computers on the side right now and do so, right? That's very easy, very accessible, very actionable. 2, sharing the pledge far and wide on social media. Again, I think this is something that almost everyone in this room can do. I rarely meet someone that doesn't have a social media account these days. And I think we've all seen the power of social media and how things can really make it big with the power of sharing and retweeting, reposting, et cetera. We've seen that. Kaig has seen that in his own experience before. 3 is relational. So I love this one because when we think of these different tiers, we think about the 9, going against that first line of defense. Is it going to be more impactful if that defense is hearing it from someone they've never met before or from their closest, most trusted family member, right? When we think about change and how it comes about and actually changing the hearts and minds of people, I think it's really important to have that trust. And most oftentimes we have that in our family and our personal networks. that fourth kind of tier is a little more educational, a little bit broader than relational. So thinking about the clubs, the communities that you're a part of, how can you spread and leverage the Liberate Sports campaign to really educate the people around you. And maybe that involves, bringing Kaig in and having him speak down the line, or, workshopping specific topics with teams and coaches and your club staff, let's say. And then lastly, that goal, I think, really, if we're going back to the analogy, is that financial piece, making a donation, physically showing your investment in this cause, because unfortunately money is at the root of this, as you said, and that is going to have the biggest impact. That's going to allow Kaig to do what he needs to do to provide for his staff, to really drive this pledge forward. So that's kind of how I like to lay it out, but I really do think there are achievable things even within all those tiers for people to do and participate in. If you can't invest, a large sum today, can you give something? So yeah, that's kind of how I like to see it. But I truly believe, I'm the PR expert in the room, quote, but I do really believe in that relational spreading through your networks. Maybe if you can't give, maybe someone who can, etc.
Yeah. So that's what was kind of coming to my mind as you were, and I love we're just layering on the soccer analogies. Kaig, way to start us off on a Friday with this. And that's where I think, okay, who's the 10? Who's the 10 in our group? That's that playmaker that's creating, maybe that's you on this call. And for a lot of our audience, for those I know and those that I come across your profiles on social media and so on, you are a 10. You're creating things on the field. You're making things happen in ways that are sometimes unpredictable, but in some ways amazingly productive and efficient to getting the job done, which is, ultimately that goal, that liberation that we're looking for. So if you're the 10, how are you going to bring in other people to get the job done? Don't forget, you got to sometimes do it on your own, but how can you bring in, is there a business? Is there someone that's looking for, listen, we're wanting to put funds towards something that we really believe in and can get behind. I think these are always great ways. And I saw Rachel just put in, and Rachel always on top of it. And Pip is going to come in here very soon for those that are repeats here on the Coffee in Progress. We did not forget Pip and the resources. It's coming soon, I promise you. But check out the chat. There's, Instagram and Twitter, places to follow what's happening with Kaig and PCFC. And, from a very personal side, and I asked Reema something similar, but Jordyn, as somebody, and Reema, by the way, you are an athlete. Anytime anyone is just doing anything in athletic, you're an athlete. So please accept that athlete identity. Please. But Jordyn, with some soccer background in your playing in your time, why is this evolution of the game important, right? From where we grew up and how we signed up for playing, right? Are you in the boys? Are you in the girls? What grade are you? That's it, and why is this evolution of Liberate Sports so important to the game we get to experience today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? Why, in your opinion, based off your experiences, is this so important?
Such a good question. And I think what my mind first goes to is the fact that soccer is inarguably the most global sport there is, right? Like in a lot of other countries, it doesn't take much for kids to be able to kick a ball, on the street, on a field, whatever it may be, with people in their community. But why is that so different in the US? And why have we made it into this big thing where you have to have a ton of money to be able to participate? I think it, like you said, Candice, it impacts every level, all the way from those rec leagues to club teams to the professional, the US women's and men's national teams. And I just see it as honestly this really much bigger picture of like, why are we making it so hard on our home turf for everybody to be able to enjoy, to play, to experience, the joy that this sport has given so many of us on this call. And so for me, I think it's really about that big picture. And also the next generation. Like Kaig has dedicated his life to working with kids. And I think progress, unfortunately, at times is a slower process, but if we're not working on it now, then what are we doing it for, right? We're doing it for the future generation, so that one day they can have, you know, the experiences, the access that maybe people in our time did not have the pleasure, the privilege to enjoy. So I those two things kind of come to mind for me.
And that's when I think back to the wonderful gifts the game has given me, but as an adult with a much more open mind and the networks I've made and the lived experiences I've been able to hear and educate from resources in all of these different areas of the world, I entered a box that the game was being played in with all of these boundaries to who I could play with, what was their standard of economics to be able to access the box I was in, what was the color of their skin, what gender do they identify as. Those boxes were there. And I just could imagine if I walked into something that just was so open to the people I could have experienced from the get-go, and how that maybe would have changed how I played, how I looked and experienced the game, how I experienced it even as an adult. And so for sure, that's something I want for my own child, who, for all of you, my daughter's got tryouts this weekend. So please just, oh my Lord, that's a whole nother, another time. But that's something that I think is really, when you think about, for those that played, what was your experience? How much of a box did you live in when you played that you didn't realize now that you can look back and go, man, there were so many boundaries around my participation? Or maybe you were on the outside of that box and felt like you could not get into that field and that access point. And so we have to start asking those questions. And I think the other part is we're starting to answer them. I think that's the part we're starting to answer with Kaig as our 9. Those of you on the 10 spot here, some of you as the center back. I'm not really like a runner. So it's for good, Reema, for you running. I'm sitting in the back, just like, let me head the ball out. I'll distribute and see where I can get some other pieces going.
I may be in the box as the strategist.
Yeah.
Or like maybe like an owner of some sort of.
I love it. Everybody's got that.
I would be great at a fundraising event where people like are mingling and I can speak in their ear and convince them to give us money. To go back to something that Jordyn said and that you picked up on as well as Candice, it's like the kind of rhetorical question, Jordyn, you said, like, why why was this like something so beloved and so accessible for so many cultures around the world? Now, why is it, this capitalistic system? And it's kind of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. And I love looking at social history and how, like, the history of corruption, it's because it's a globally beloved sport that someone said, you know what, we can really leverage this to make a shit ton of money. Mm-hmm. And what we're trying to do now is we're trying to reclaim it. So it goes back to the accessible, beloved global sport that it began as.
And one of the reason why this analogy came to me about asking questions of the defense, and I'm so glad it's getting picked up and run with, is that one of the questions that we're asking is towards capitalism. And what PCFC is doing that's really uniquely different than maybe what you might see other organizations out there doing that are giving access to kids in an after school program. Totally great. Love it. Not given any shade. But what we're doing is we're going directly to the pay to play system. Exactly. We are heading right into the capitalist structure that has created all of these barriers in this pay to play system. And we're saying, no. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to go this way. We can do it differently, and we can still have a really great, high quality experience for kids that doesn't cost all of these thousands and thousands of dollars. But when you go up against and ask questions of big systems like capitalism, white supremacy, and patriarchy, people get mad. Mm-hmm. People are not happy about it. They do not want to see that succeed, people being the people who have power. Mm-hmm. That's why we need people behind us in this movement. Because the more people that we have behind us in the movement that are saying enough of this, then you start to drown out the smaller amount of people who have the loudest platform. We need the loudest platform now, and that's what PCFC has been doing for 10 years. And now I'm ready to have more people. We're ready to have more people. Our families are ready to have more people. They are upset. They want the support. So that's the plug right there.
And there's some very large entities and governing bodies that have power to help this movement.
Yes.
And there are people that work in those governing bodies that want to see things like this succeed. And the more that we can provide our support through the pledge, through social media, financials, it's going to help their voice that exists in those national governing bodies, because they do. Jordyn, I did want to ask one quick question of you. Where else, so if we want to bring, I want to bring Kaig, I want to bring PCF, if I want to bring this Liberate Sports movement because there's a community, a group, where are we going? Where should we go to do these supportive actions?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the best way to stay in touch is sign the pledge, because we'll have your email on file for any updates or things that, ways to get involved kind of beyond the things we've spoken about today, maybe things we haven't even ideated yet, right? So that's the best way, I think, to stay involved, but also follow Kaig, follow PCFC. There's not a Liberate Sports social page right now, but that doesn't mean there can't be. Follow on social media, because there will always be updates and, things to come there. I did want to go just, Candice, really quickly back to one thing I had said about progress, and something that actually you brought to my mind in really talking about those buckets is like, we're aiming for those big characters that Kaig just mentioned. But I do think with that relational aspect, really making people question those boxes, whether it's, how as a coach do I maybe treat my players differently based on their racial or, sexual orientation or whatever it may be, that can change a lot quickly. And I think there are ways to make progress now, which is what this pledge is also calling for, so staying connected is going to be really important, because this is just the start, and there will be so much to come from Kaig and the pledge in the next few months.
Well, excited to watch. And I know there will be, for those that are on baby cam footage, there may be a baby entering into cages.
The baby's asleep. All I've got is the monitor.
Okay. Well, at least you have that. And if the cries come, no worries. But I do want to flip to the resource guru, Pip. Resources are what she seems to have, plentiful and always quality. And that's the thing that I hope in progress. And from this conversation, you've been educated, but there's so many ways to continue your own self-education. And so, Pip, if you can, what are some either resources as well as what the audience should expect to be receiving after this call?
Yeah, totally. I'll firstly say that they're quality, because they're usually made up of all of you on the call and with members from these resources. And to just keep running with Kaig is like soccer analogy, which is really Coach Kaig clicked into my head, like what we're doing with Liberate Sports, like the idea that they're like, that Liberate Sports is finding the gaps, and creating space. I just it made me think about how exciting it is as a fan or as a player when suddenly there's space. When you're making a play, suddenly you can see space, even when you're losing, and there's good pressure and there's space. And that's really what we're like doing here with this resource piece as well, like getting educated, and spreading the word amongst yourself and others is creating space for change. And that is what Liberate Sports is doing. So we've talked through a lot of the resources. Of course, I would love everyone on this call to sign the Liberate Sports pledge as your #1 resource and action item today. But then following this call, we'll have the video recording for y'all so you can share it, as well as a multi-dimensional toolkit. And I have to say, shout out to Jordyn, who teed me up with a perfect pass to get these resources actually in line. And I'll just quickly run through some of the organizations that have shaped the Liberate Sports movement. Of course, we've got Portland FC, and AF Mindset is another one that's listed here, and that's actually founded by an expert WIS member, Lisa Bontasumi, and it's all about mental wellness in the game, which is of course an important piece to fighting all oppression. So Lisa does amazing work in that regard. The Centre for Healing and Justice Through Sports, like they're healing trauma through sports, which I think every one of us has had an element of what sports can do for our well-being, so it's super powerful. And Up to Us Sports, they're a nationwide leader addressing some of the most pressing issues facing youth in under-resourced urban communities. So that's another resource that we were teed up with that really the Liberate sports movement took into account. The Everybody is Welcome Here New York Times feature on Kaig by Kurt Streeters. That's another one. Sign the pledge, then finish this call, and please take some time to sit and read that article. It is so powerful and so moving. Kaig, I'll just tell you right now, I absolutely teared up when I first read it. So I'm now getting sappy on the call in front of you all, but it really is so moving and so powerful. And as Reema highlighted, showcasing why Kaig is an incredible person to be leading this movement. And we're all on this call to like lead with empathy and understand others' experiences. So that's another great resource. And an event that I just wanted to highlight as well, it's relevant to this Liberate sports movement and community building, is Portland FC and the Sports Bra in Portland are doing an awesome event on Friday, July 21st for the official watch party for the US Women's National Team World Cup debut. So that'll be incredible. So make sure you're following Portland FC on social media. And
yeah, that's what I'm like looking at Expedia right now. Like, how quickly
I
can
hope
I
I could be there too. And the Sports Bra, which is an incredible, cool new spot in Portland. So anyone in that area, I'm jealous if you can go there all the time. But that's an event on July 21st where you could meet all of the amazing folks on this call in person. So yeah, that's it for resources, but I'll follow up with you all with all of these in a document for you. And thank you, Jordyn, for helping me out with that.
Amazing. And go ahead.
Can I just follow up real quick with Pip's resources? We are working with Center for Justice and Healing Through Sport. They are providing training to our coaches around trauma-informed coaching, which is amazing. Ath Mindset, I've connected with Lisa. We're going to hopefully partner next year, and Up to Us, we are working on a partnership with them for next year. So these are very specific resources that are connected to what PCFC is doing to help us do this work. And that's part of what today was about, was how do you start a movement? It's all these people. Jordyn and Reema are so integral to this continuing forward. I couldn't do this on my own. And it was so integral to bringing this to Candice and to Rachel and to Pip and saying, we need a platform to start talking about this. These are the ways that movements start. It doesn't just stay siloed with one group or one small entity. And the watch party is our official public launch of this movement. So that is where I'll be up on stage and really talking about this to hopefully thousands of people. That's what we're going for.
It will be amazing. And yeah, already looking at the calendar to see what's possible. So you all, I promise always an under the hour. And I told you at the beginning, there is going to be so much more you want to talk about. You're going to want to learn about, you're going to want to check out, you're going to want to sign the pledge. Those were the things I promised at the beginning. And I feel like we're fulfilling that this conversation does need to continue. Your self-education needs to continue. If you are a disruptor, keep disrupting. If you are someone that can help somebody's story of disruption, keep going. Celebrate Pride Month. Be continuing the celebration past June 30th. Please watch the Women's World Cup, watch women's soccer at all different levels. There's so many. I have a WPSL team. We love the support and all of the things we can get. The USLW, the UWS, there's so much out there to support these pathways and these understandings of how the game is going to be different today, tomorrow, next week, next month. Thank you for all of our panelists. Appreciate the time you're spending with us this morning. To the WIS Network, always thank you for letting me be involved. I'm Candice, Fearless and Capable, at fearlessandcapable.com, mentoring more women and girls and really everybody, but it's female led. We're getting women in positions to mentor and say, we want the next generation to feel the support that they need to continue to find whatever pathway they want to be a part of the game and making it better. Thank you guys for joining our Friday. Enjoy the coffee buzz if you have it, tea buzz, or if you're just drinking water, stay hydrated, enjoy your Friday. And thank you for joining us. All right.
Thank you all.
Bye, everybody.